I'm 94, and this morning I made my own breakfast, walked to my mailbox, and watered my garden before most people even opened their eyes. No nurse, no help, no one reminding me what to do. And before you think I'm one of those lucky ones, let me tell you something. A few years ago, I almost stopped getting out of bed altogether. These days I wake up before the sun, not because I'm disciplined, mostly because my body doesn't sleep like it used to. My knees complain a little. My hands take a second to cooperate, so I sit there on the edge of the bed, moving my ankles, waiting for everything to come online. Then I stand up anyway. I walk into the kitchen. Same routine. Kettle on. 2 eggs in the pan. Toast in the toaster. Real butter, not that plastic stuff they tried to sell us back in the day. I don't rush. There's no reason to. Nobody's waiting on me, and I'm not chasing anything anymore. Some mornings, my hand shakes a bit. When I pour the tea, I spill a little, I clean it up. Life goes on. After breakfast, if the weather isn't acting up, I step outside. Sometimes I walk all the way to the mailbox. Sometimes I just stand on the porch and pretend I was planning to walk farther. Depends on how honest I feel that day. I've got a small garden out back. Nothing fancy. Tomatoes, a few greens. Enough to keep me busy and remind me I'm still part of something that grows. People see me out there and they ask the same question every time. How are you still doing all this at your age? Like there's supposed to be a secret formula. Like I've been hiding something. Truth is, I didn't get here because I did everything right. I got here because I didn't completely give up, even when I came pretty close. There was a time not too long ago when this house felt too big, too quiet, and a whole lot heavier than it does now. And on some mornings back then, getting out of bed didn't feel like starting a day. It felt optional. I stayed in that bed longer than I should have that morning, staring at the ceiling, like it might give me a reason to move. 6 years ago, I didn't wake up thinking about breakfast or the garden. I woke up to silence. The kind of silence that doesn't go away no matter how long you sit with it. My husband, Robert, had been gone for a few weeks by then. Heart attack. Quick. The kind people call a blessing because there wasn't much suffering. Funny thing is, the suffering doesn't end with the person who dies. For over 40 years, I was his wife. That's how people knew me. That's how I knew myself. We had our routine. Same church every Sunday. Same table every dinner. Same arguments about what to plant in the yard. Then one day, all of that stopped. The house didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a place where something used to happen. I'd sit in the living room with the TV on just to hear a voice. Couldn't tell you what I was watching. Didn't care. It was just noise, so I didn't have to listen to the quiet. I stopped cooking real meals. Turns out you don't feel like frying eggs and setting the table when it's just you. I'd open a can, eat a few bites, and call it dinner. Some days I skipped it altogether. Mornings got worse. I'd wake up and just lie there. No plan, no reason, no one expecting anything from me. And when nobody expects anything from you, it's real easy to start expecting nothing from yourself. I remember one morning I didn't open the curtains, not because I forgot. I just didn't see the point. The sun was out, I'm sure, it always is. But it didn't feel like it had anything to do with me anymore. That's the part people don't talk about. It's not just that you lose someone. You lose the version of yourself that existed with them. I wasn't just alone. I didn't know who I was without him. There was no one saying my name from the other room. No one asking if I wanted coffee. No one noticing if I got up or if I didn't. And once that thought settles in, it gets comfortable. Too comfortable. That morning lying there, I remember thinking real clearly, if I just stayed in this bed, nothing would really change. No one was coming by. No one was calling that early. The world outside that house would keep moving just fine without me in it. And for a moment that felt easier than getting up. I didn't feel sad in some dramatic way. It wasn't tears and breakdowns. It was quieter than that. It was just nothing pushing me forward. I turned my head toward the window but didn't reach for the curtain. That was new. I used to open it first thing every single day. Robert liked the light in the morning. Said it made the house feel alive. That morning I just lay there and let the room stay dim. A few days later, I noticed the mailbox. Not because I went to check it. I saw it through the front window, stuffed full, flyers sticking out, bills probably. 3 days, maybe 4. I couldn't remember the last time I walked out there. Out back wasn't any better. The tomato plants had started to drop, leaves curling in on themselves like they were giving up before I did. I stood there at the back door just looking at it. Didn't feel like guilt. Didn't feel like urgency. Just a quiet realization. If I didn't move, nothing around me would either. That was it. No speech, no big decision, no sudden burst of motivation. I just walked into the kitchen and turned on the kettle. That first morning didn't fix anything. I didn't suddenly feel better. I didn't come back to life like in the movies. I made tea, stood there for a while, and then went right back to sitting down. But the next morning I did it again. Not because I wanted to, because it was something. Some days I kept going after the tea. Fried an egg, toasted some bread. Other days I didn't get past the kettle. And I'm not going to pretend I was consistent. I wasn't. There were mornings I went right back to that chair in the living room and stayed there longer than I should have. Days where I told myself, maybe tomorrow, just like George down the street used to say. Funny how easy it is to become the person you used to worry about. But little things started to stick. I stopped opening cans and started cooking again. Simple stuff, nothing fancy. Eggs toast, the kind of breakfast you don't have to think about. I started stepping outside again. Not far, just enough to feel the air. Some days I made it to the mailbox. Some days I didn't feel like dealing with the wind and turned around halfway. That still counted. I didn't call it exercise. I didn't call it recovery. I didn't call it anything. It was just doing one small thing instead of doing nothing. And that turned out to be more important than I expected. Because when nothing is pushing you forward, even the smallest action starts to matter. Even something as simple as deciding not to stay in bed all day. And once I got used to doing one thing, it got a little easier to do another. I kept the kettle on a little longer that morning and reached for the eggs instead of sitting back down. That's how most of it started. Not all at once. Not in some neat list like people like to hear. Just one thing sticking, then another. The first real change I made was going back to real food. Butter, eggs, olive oil. The stuff I grew up with. For years, we were told to switch to all those healthy spreads and bottled oils with labels you need a magnifying glass to read. My friend Helen followed that advice for 20 years, did everything right according to the box. Her health didn't exactly thank her for it. I didn't argue with anyone about it. I just went back to what made sense. Breakfast became simple. Same thing most mornings. 2 eggs toast tea. Not exciting, but I didn't need exciting. I needed steady. When you don't have a reason to get up, the last thing you want is to stand in front of a fridge making decisions. I gave myself one less thing to think about. Then there was the way I got out of bed. I stopped rushing it. I move my ankles first, my wrists, give my body a minute to catch up. I learned that the hard way after one morning. I stood up too fast and nearly introduced myself to the floor. At my age, that's not a small accident, that's a life change. Movement came next, but not the kind people brag about. No gym, no step counter. I just stopped sitting all day. I walked to the mailbox. I bend down in the garden. I reach up to hang laundry. Some days it's 10 minutes. Some days it's more. The point is, I don't stay still too long. I've seen what happens when people do. My neighbor George retired and decided he'd earned the right to rest. Sat in that chair most days, said he'd get moving tomorrow. Tomorrow kept getting pushed back until it ran out on him. Sleep changed too, but not because I forced it. I go to bed when I'm tired, usually early. I wake up early too. The morning feels different when you don't fight it. Quiet, clear, no one asking anything from you. I started reading again, just a few pages a day. Some days I have to reread the same paragraph twice, but that's all right. I'd rather take my time than lose the ability altogether. Losing your memory. That's a different kind of disappearing. But the biggest change didn't happen in my kitchen or my bedroom. It happened the first time I left the house for something that wasn't the mailbox. I hadn't been to church since Robert passed. Took me months to even consider it. That Sunday I sat in the same pew we used for over 40 years, same spot. Only difference was the space next to me stayed empty. For a while I just sat there wondering if I should have stayed home. Then someone leaned over and said, "It's good to see you, Maggie." Simple as that. No big moment. No speech. Just someone noticing I showed up. And that did more for me than anything else I'd been trying on my own. Because you can eat right, move your body, sleep on time, and still feel like you're fading if nobody knows you're there. So I kept showing up. Not perfectly, not every single time, but enough. I sat there a little longer that morning after someone said my name and realized something I hadn't understood before. You can be alive and still feel like you're slowly disappearing. Nobody tells you that part. They talk about eating better, moving, more, taking care of your health. And all of that matters. It does. But none of it means much if you don't have a reason to keep showing up. What kept me here wasn't anything big. It wasn't a major decision. It wasn't a moment where everything suddenly made sense. It was small things, a cup of tea in the morning, the sound of eggs cooking in the pan, walking to the mailbox even when I didn't feel like it, reading a few pages even if I had to go back and read them again, sitting somewhere where someone might notice I showed up. That's what living looks like at my age. Not perfect days, not big plans, just enough reasons to put your feet on the floor and start again. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Don't wait for a big reason. You might be waiting a long time. Start with something small, something simple, something you can do tomorrow morning without thinking too hard about it. Move your feet, make your breakfast, step outside for a minute. That's how it begins. Not all at once, just enough to keep you here. And if stories like this mean something to you, stories about life advice, stories about advice from grandparents, stories about life lessons, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes the things that stay with you the longest aren't complicated. They're just honest. And sometimes that's exactly what you need.